Hi everybody. In the last few videos we've been working with the if function and also the ifs function as far as enhancing the information that's already in our worksheet. Now we have additional function formulas that involve the if as well, which is pretty interesting. So we have things like the SUMIF, SUMIFS, we have the average if, the average ifs, and the count and the COUNTIFS and so forth. So what's kind of interesting about all this is that we're kind of adding a new layer to the common sum and average and count functions to a point where it will sum or average or count our numbers if those numbers fall into a certain criteria. And that's what we're going to be looking at here. Now, instead of boring you and having you watch me type every single formula in for columns E, F, and G, what I'm going to do instead for this video is just kind of click onto each one of these and explain how the formula is put together. And then from that point, you should be able to then see how it's put together, and then when you run into a situation where you want to have this type of calculation, you'll know how to do it. Now, I will say this. The information that you're getting from here, the numbers that you see here, can also be gotten by using a pivot table. So it would take you a lot less effort to make a pivot table out of this data, coming up with these various numbers. But there's going to be situations where you really don't want to go all out with a pivot table. You just want maybe a couple of different calculations, maybe a pick of a few of these that you see here that you can use to further analyze your data. What we have here are a number of different transactions at the bottom here, and they go on not too many. I've got just maybe a little over 90 of them in here. But the one thing that I want you to see is that we have a number of different things that we want to calculate. So what I've done is I've set up a number of different scenarios of different kinds of calculations that I want to see. In other words, as I said in the beginning, the whole idea of these SUMIFs and COUNTIFs and AVERAGEIF type functions is to be able to add up numbers. In this case, we're going to be adding up the numbers in column I, but only if they meet a certain criteria. So maybe for the first one here, Eurozone, what we want to do is we want to add up all of the sales where the zone on that row is equal to euro. And if we find one, or if it finds one, it will then take that number and add it to the next one, and so on and so forth. Or any of these other ones that you see in here. So we can go as far as saying I want to see all of the rep Hendrix's seafood sales, and what it would do is it would match up on finding Hendrix where it would be seafood, and anytime that you'd have that pairing, then we want to add up that number. So it's going to be, the totals that we're going to be getting in most cases are going to be much less than the overall, because we're focusing on certain areas of those sales. All right, so without further ado, what I'm going to do is just kind of go through each one of these. So we've got quite a few of them in here, but I think if you understand how the formula is put together, it'll be easy for you to conjure up the same formula when you're doing this on your own. Now keep in mind that on all these examples that we have, all these videos that you're watching, you're going to be able to go down below here and actually see the done version where it has all the formulas in there. All right, so normally I would have maybe started out here and bored you by typing in each and every formula. Okay, so I think it'll go a little bit faster, and I think it'll make more sense just to see it this way. So I'm just going to go over to the done version, and we're just going to go to each one of these. So what we're looking at first of all here is we would like to add up or sum up only those sales, only those transactions where they're equal to euro for the zone. So we have a euro there, we have one here, and then further down and so forth. So we want to take those corresponding numbers and add them up. All right, and now in this case, when we do that, in this case it comes up to 545,000. Now, if you click onto there, you'll see the formula up in the formula bar. Now, when you first look at it, it looks a little complicated, but it's really not that bad. We're using what is called the SUMIF, all right, in this case. So we want to sum if only in the range of D14 through D98, which are basically these cells here, okay, this whole column here. As long as that equals 0, all right, so when you find all those equal 0, then add up the corresponding numbers that are in column J, you know, the same range down there. So that's pretty straightforward. Now, the other one is for average, and that's pretty much the same way. We've got average if. Look at column D. If it's equal to 0, then the corresponding numbers, add those up. All right, with the count, a little bit simpler because all we're doing here is we're saying count if in the range of D14, you know, through D98, it's equal to 0. All right, so we're not really adding anything up. We're actually just adding up how many there are. So that's where we're using the COUNTIF. So that's pretty good. Now for the next one, what we want to do is we want to add up and average and count all those transactions that are not American. So that are not American. Well, look what we're doing here. Pretty much the same calculation. We want to add up what's in, you know, we're going to add up, you know, basically what's in column I over here, as long as column D, all right, is not American. So one reason why I want to show this one was, or I did this one, is to show you how you'd specify the word not. And that's just a less than and greater than symbol back to back there. All right, so that's pretty neat. The average, pretty much the same thing. Look at column D, find everything that's not American, and then take those corresponding numbers and add those up. And on the counting, what we've got here is just we're going to count if, same kind of thing, in column D, if it's not American. And note also, by the way, the quotation marks on those, because anytime that you're referring to non-values in a formula, it's always surrounded by those quotation marks, okay? All right, for the third one, year 2019 sales. Okay, so click onto there. Now, in this one, a little bit different. We're using a function called the SUMPRODUCT. This function formula has been recently added to the role of function formulas, and just so you know, we've got a little over 500 different function formulas out there. So this is one of the more popular ones. It's called SUMPRODUCT. What this does to figure out, let's say, the year 2019, it says, okay, I want to do the SUMPRODUCT. All right. Look for the year in the range of B14 through B98. So when you look at these dates, find the ones that are equal to the year 2019. That's what that whole section there does. And when you do that, then go over and find the corresponding numbers over on the side there and add all those up just as before. It might seem a little odd with that little asterisk in there, but that's just part of it. That's more like of a separator than anything. It'd be like a comma, except if you try to put a comma in there, you're going to get an error. So the idea here is that you just think of that as a separator and you'll be fine. So all we're saying is look for, in those dates, the year 2019, okay? And then just find all the corresponding numbers and add them up. Pretty straightforward. For the average, though, we can actually use the AVERAGEIFS in this case now. So it's a little bit different. Now, we're using the AVERAGEIFS because anytime that you have multiple criteria, it's always going to be the ifs one, okay? Whether it's SUMIFS or AVERAGEIFS or COUNTIFS, if there's multiple criteria. And what we're doing here is we're saying, in essence, look for, okay, look in column I, those are what we're going to be adding up, but then look in column B and find everything that's greater than January 1st, 2019, and where it's less than December 31st, 2019. So basically the year 2019. And once you find those, then add up those corresponding numbers there. It's a little bit backwards. Whenever you do the ifs versions of these, the stuff that you're going to be adding up, the range you're going to be adding up, is at the beginning instead of at the end. So it's a little odd, but that's just how it is. Just have to put up with it. Anyway, so that's on that one. Then of course the how many transactions do we have in there? Well, we do the COUNTIFs. Same thing. Look at column B. All right. Look for, in this case, the all of them that are greater than January 1st, 2019, and where they're less than the 31st of 2019. All right, and then just count them up. So pretty cool on that one. Now, the next one we have here is Q1 of 2019. Now again, we're not going to use what we did before. We did the sum product. We're going to do a little bit more refined. It's just going to be a quarter, so you have to go back to the SUMIFS. In this case, we're saying SUMIFS, add up what you see in column I, as long as column B, where we've got our order dates, are greater than January 1st, 2019, and less than March 31st, 2019. So that first quarter. That's what we have here, Q1. All right. Pretty much the same thing, with the AVERAGEIFS. Trying to find the average of those numbers. So the AVERAGEIFS average up, column I, as long as column B is greater than January 1st and less than March 31st. All right. And then for the last one here, we've got the COUNTIFs. So now here we have the AVERAGEIFS, right? So here we've got the COUNTIFs. In this case, what we're saying is count up, column I, or I'm sorry, column B, which you see here, as long as it's greater than January 1st, 2019, and it's less than March 31st, 2019. So a little bit different, design there, but it's still very logical. It's not something that you're sitting there going, well, I can't even imagine why they would even come up with that type of syntax, where we have to put it in that way. I mean, it's logical. It makes sense. All right. Now for this next one here, sales after 12/1 of 2018. Well, in that case, what we want to do is we say, okay, SUMIF, looking at column B, all right, as long as it's greater than December 1st, 2018, and if it is, then go ahead and add up what we have in column I. Now that's an if, so that was put at the end. If this is an ifs for whatever reason, then that would have been back in the beginning. All right, same thing with the AVERAGEIF. Same kind of layout, look in column B as far as the total goes and do that range, basically anything greater than 12/1. And then we also have the count, and that's going to be count if in column B is greater than 12/1. See, so it'll just count these. So as long as they're greater than 12/1, it'll count them up, and we get 19 in that case. Okay, and this next one here, we want all of the sales rep Hendrix's seafood sales. So as long as it says Hendrix and seafood on the same row, then we want to add up or count or average whatever off of that. So in this case, we're doing SUMIFS, right? Because we're doing multiple criteria. In this case, we want to add up column I as long as column H has seafood and on the same row, column F has Hendrix, and that's it. Go to the next one for AVERAGEIFS. Same exact layout here. We're doing AVERAGEIFS. We're looking at J, right, over here. Not J, I mean. So we're looking to add up, column I as long as we've got seafood and Hendrix. And again, with the counting, count if in column F we're Hendrix and column H it's seafood. So we're not doing any calculating. We're just going to be adding up how many rows or how many records we have where Hendrix and seafood are on the same row. So pretty neat. This next one is house accounts. Now, house accounts is where, or are where we have no rep. I used to be in sales, and that was always the most frustrating thing, that a lot of the big accounts that one could get were probably already gotten, and no sales rep was really kind of handling them. It was more what they called a house account, okay? So just no reps involved. It'd be just a manager or something. So in this case, we're saying SUMIF if in column F, which is our sales rep, if that is equal to nothing. See, so the two quotation marks, as you've seen before, mean nothing. And when you find a row that has nothing in that cell, then add up what we have in column I. So pretty neat. And the same thing with the average. No different on that one. And on the counting, that's even simpler. We're just saying COUNTIF in column F, there's nothing. So if there's nothing, count it, and so forth. Have 18 of those. All right, now we have the chocolate sales. That's the product, all right? Chocolate sales to Umbrella Corporation. Very socially responsible company there. Anyway, so what we want to do there is we want to add up, again, the sales. So how's that going to go? Well, we're going to do a SUMIFS because we have multiple criteria, right? We're going to be adding up column I, right? As long as column C has Umbrella Corp and column G, okay, which is the product here, has chocolate, all right? Same thing with AVERAGEIFS, no different on that one. And then, of course, with the column now, or I'm sorry, with counting, I should say, here we're saying COUNTIFS. Look at column C for Umbrella Corporation and column G for chocolate. We're not going to be adding up column I. We're just going to count how many rows have those for matching items on each of those rows, right? Okay, and then last but not least, produce sales made by Kingsley to Asia, all right? So what do we do there? Well, we're going to be adding up, all right, column I, as long as column F, all right, is equal to Kingsley, as long as column H is equal to produce, all right, and then column D is equal to Asia. So if those three are matching across the board on a particular row, then it will add up the number that's in column I. All right, and again, no different with the AVERAGEIFS. All right, so we're adding up column I. We've got F, column F for Kingsley. All right, which will be this column here. Column H for produce. All right, over here, and then of course Asia would be the zone over here in column D. All right, so as long as those three match on a row, then they're counted, or averaged, I should say. The numbers are averaged. And then for the last one here, we're counting as long as column F has Kingsley, column H has produce, and column D has Asia. And if those three exist on the same row, then we count them up, and it comes out to be about 5 there. So hopefully that will help you. This is something that would normally be gotten through a pivot table, but again, you might want to just have maybe 2 or 3 of these calculations in your worksheet, and therefore want to just maybe do a formula, put that somewhere top, bottom, wherever you're going to be putting it. But the whole idea is that in most cases you're probably not going to be doing anything this large. Maybe you are. I mean, if you are, that's great. But the idea is that just doing a few of them and putting them in your worksheet as one of your many calculations gives you extra information, allows you to see your data maybe in a little bit different light. That's all that's to it. Okay. All right. So anyway, hope you like this, and thanks for watching the video.